the people making videos about me are going in and liking, loving comments that are actively telling me to want to hurt me. So, I mean, there's
Do you have any receipts of that?
I do.
And a lot of this spurs from the announcement that I made yesterday about Take Games Back, morphing into the Real Game Awards. Once again, it's an award show. It's meant to be an alternative to the corporate traditional access media game awards run by Jeff Keighley. And so far, the response has been really strong. People have really enjoyed it. Obviously, anytime you launch anything or launch any sort of alternative, you're going to hear people, oh, you're a grifter, you're whatever. And the reality is that nobody's making any money on this at all, right? The idea here is that we're just trying to do something. This is more or less an opportunity to give back to gaming, an industry that I've been in for 18 years, and I've seen the shift of things over the last several years. And we're doing this because we want to do it, and we think that there should be an alternative. And people say, hey, if you don't like it, do something different. So guess what? We're doing something different. And as soon as we do something different, you're the worst. So there's been obviously a lot of criticism around it, but I do think it's important to give you guys who didn't watch yesterday background on what exactly we're talking about. So I want to run this video. It's about 2 minutes long or so. So hey, stand by, and then we'll get to some of the criticism here, and then we'll get to our guest. So this is the announcement that we made yesterday about the Real Game Awards. A few months ago when I announced Take Games Back, I, like many of you, had pretty much just reached a tipping point. I was and am just sick and tired of seeing gamers just disrespected by journalists and even people within the video game industry. It is amazing to see an industry that has just such disregard for its customers. Take Games Back was and is a call to action because something has to be done. And since I made that first announcement, journalists, consultants, and industry activists have almost doubled down. We've seen journalists dox people, literally call people's wives, and even challenge people to physical fights. I mean, what a joke. As I said before, it's one big club, and you're not even invited to it. And the worst part about it is that these people have the gall to think that they get to decide the best games of the year at some overly corporatized, super sterile award show that plays it safe. Not anymore. Starting today, Take Games Back is officially called the Real Game Awards. I've always thought the phrase for gamers, by gamers is extremely cliche, but I gotta be honest, that's exactly what the Real Game Awards is. You decide what you like best, not some activist blogger out of San Francisco or New York. We're going to remove all that bullshit product placement and all that celebrity nonsense that's thrown in there. Get right to the core of it. It's about games. If you're tired of all the nonsense in the video game industry and want to help reclaim the voice for actual gamers, become a voting member of the Real Game Awards. And hell yes, we're going to gatekeep, which is why it costs $30 a year to become a voting member. If you become a member today, guess what? We're actually taking suggestions for categories right now. Yes, you will decide the categories voted on in this year's award show. In 2024, we want to do a digital event because our goal is simple. We want to save as much money as we can for 2025 where we can hold a physical event. I don't care if we do it at a Buffalo Wild Wings. The point is we gotta take action. With that said, it's time for you to take action and help reclaim the voice for gamers in this industry and hobby that we all love. Go to therealgameawards.com and become a voting member and start suggesting categories literally right now. All right, so that's what we announced yesterday. And so far the response has been really strong. People have really enjoyed it. As I said, people have really gotten behind the idea, and people feel like there needs to be an alternative. And as I said before, I think that having an alternative is always a good thing, because right now there's one industry event, and there's not really, there are several smaller web specific. If you own a website or something, you do your own award show. But I'm thinking of something that's bigger. So with that said, you announce something, and naturally there's going to be some criticism. And we have, I like to pull up these tweets just to make sure that we got them. But you know what? We'll pull in Nick Calandra to join us. Nick, how are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good, man. Welcome back. It's been a few months since you've been on the show. How have you been?
Not too bad. Trying to, if I twitch a little bit, my neck is completely kinked up, so I may be a little bit not giving you guys the looks.
That's okay.
In pain.
Well, we appreciate you coming on, man, because most people wouldn't, and I think it's
Sure.
it's big of you to do that. We've talked about coming on the show many, just even this weekend, we talked about getting you on the show with Smash, because you and Smash been going back and forth. And I think it's important that we actually show people that you can actually have a conversation. So I appreciate you coming on to have a conversation. So you have been, you're very critical of this idea of the Real Game Awards. Tell me why.
I'm not exactly critical of the Real Game Awards. I mean, I've been critical of Keeley's Game Awards for the exact same reasons why you're doing this. I think it's too showy, it's too corporate, and all that. I think my biggest criticism of what you're doing here is, if you want it to be taken seriously and legitimized amongst the wider audience,
which we don't.
Why don't you?
Because I think that's exactly, we have no interest in being taken seriously by journalists or
that's not what
any member of the access media.
Sure. That's not exactly what I mean. I mean more just in bringing in a wider audience of people that would actually want to watch it.
So here's my thing. I think that the wider audience, the regular person, the normal man who watches our show, I think there's a lot more of them than there are of the niche bubble activist who works inside the industry. And that's who our audience is. Our audience is the people who grew up playing games, saw a dramatic shift in the last few years, and are saying, what the hell's happening? What just happened to video games? Why these games that we loved, why does everything need to have some sort of social agenda attached to it, when that's never been a thing ever in entertainment? And up until the last few years, it's been. So a lot of people in our audience in particular have their head spinning, and they're looking for an alternative, right? They don't like the idea of, as you said, a corporate or sanitized version of an award show that is built around industry input, that you have to pay $250,000 to have your trailer played at, right? I get the idea of advertising, but I would much rather have a show that is funded by our audience, so we don't have to have corporate sponsorship. So instead of it being, as so eloquently put by Mark the Cyborg, it's either going to be a member-funded event or it's a marketing event. And this is not a marketing event. This is meant to be an event that is built for people who like playing games and like talking about games, and not necessarily a dog and pony show for members of an elite list or a journalist list.
Do you consider me a member of that elite list?
Do you vote on any of those shows?
Nope, I've never been invited.
Okay. Then no, I guess not. I mean, I know that you have your Patreon, and you were with Escapist for a long time and such. And, that's why I said anybody can truly vote on this. Literally anybody, right?
Sure.
But, as far as, we have some specific rules when it comes to our board of directors, which I know you're not a big fan of our board of directors. It is what it is. You're going to like people, you're going to not like people. But those rules are pretty simple, right? And when it comes to all this, we'd want to make this as straightforward as it possibly can, as we possibly can.
For that board, have you reached out to other people that
absolutely
disagree with you?
100%, absolutely, yes. And to be clear, when it comes to the board, our rules are they're not allowed to vote. They can't be on any press list or
Sure.
AAA developer, receive any sort of perks, and you can't work for traditional gaming access media, right? I think that's pretty basic rules. When you're trying to do a show that's for gamers by gamers, I think having those rules associated with it are there. Question for you: are you on any press lists or receive any perks from AAA gamers or AAA publishers?
What do you consider perks? Review codes?
Review codes, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. So you wouldn't be eligible for a board, right?
Sure.
So let me ask you this: as a member, so yeah, you would be considered access media because you as a member of access media, do you ever feel that as a member of access media that you can't say things because if you did say those things, you may potentially lose said access?
I mean, yeah, the story about how we don't work with Sony anymore is far and wide. You know, basically they tried to compare Yahtzee to Cinema Sins, and they didn't blacklist us or anything. We could have kept requesting codes, but I wasn't gonna grovel to get review codes. We can just go buy them. You know, the only reason we need review codes is so that we can get videos out on time, and even then we don't follow strict embargo schedules anyways. So
then what's the point? If you don't follow embargo schedules, what's the point? What's it matter?
If we there's so many games.
Wouldn't it be better? Sorry, Nick. Wouldn't it be better if you just spent $60 on the game instead of?
I mean, we often do.
Right. So and then provide that at your leisure, because at the end of the day, specifically in today's climate, wouldn't it be better if you just created a great review based off of personalities
if we were a single personality channel, sure, but we're not. We're got 13 full-time people. We cover a lot of different games. If we don't get review copies 2 weeks in advance, like, we're way behind on just staying up to date with things. So we definitely could do it without review copies. But it just makes our jobs easier to stay up to date with the games that are coming out, so that we're not behind all the time.
But behind to what? That's the bigger question. Like, behind to what?
Well, I mean, you've seen our channel. Look at all the indie games we cover every week. I mean, we cover more indie games than any other outlet out there. There's no way to keep up with that if we don't get those copies in advance time and have time to prepare that coverage.
Once again, you're setting an arbitrary deadline that means nothing to anybody, right? And if people trust the reviewer, they'll wait for that review. And that's on you for setting that arbitrary deadline. Though it's not like they say, get this review out by a certain date, otherwise we're not going to give you another code in the future, right? What you're looking to capitalize on is search engine optimization and people searching for that review at that time, right?
No, not exactly. I mean, we're completely crowdfunded. We don't really do the search engine game anymore. We're not running a website.
Then once again, what does it matter?
Well, what does it matter that we get review copies in the first place? You view them as a gift. Right. I just view them as a work material.
Right. Well, they're given to you, right? And with expectations and strings attached to it. Nick, I've been there. I've played the game before, man.
What expectations or strings are attached to a review code?
The expectation being that you have to not necessarily speak nice about it, but there are certain things there. There are bullet points that are on a press release that says you can talk about this, you can't talk about this. I've received these press releases, these embargo rules. You can't talk about it up to this certain time, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I've been there when it comes to, going to live events. I mean, I've been to all these things for years.
So have I. If there's one, if we don't feel comfortable with a review copy or embargo that's set on it, we don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just, everybody has to make those decisions on their own.
Let's go back to this though. Sure. Your criticism of the Real Game Awards. So continue. Like, what's the issue here with this and with you say the channels that proclaim for gamers don't even talk about games. Have you watched our show at all today? Have you?
I've seen your shows.
Right, and I would say we talk about games. We talk about entertainment. Now, are we breaking down pixels? Are we breaking down difficulty? No, we're talking about the larger cultural impact of games, and that also is a part of games.
Sure, I don't disagree with that. I don't like the messaging of how you're doing the Real Game Awards. I think if you want to do this thing and you want to compete and show it's better, like, why not invite everybody in? And I'm not saying onto the board. I'm not saying into this. Like, you open up your marketing with, we're going to gatekeep people out of it. We're going to do all this. I just don't get it. I don't get why.
You're going to run into the same thing, though, that we're already seeing with the mainstream awards. If you start allowing everybody in and people who do have access, I mean, the main concern here is that, okay, is there some sort of bias involved with the panel? People want to see the actual gamers' voices being heard. So if you do just allow everybody, then you're going to run into the exact same thing and just different name.
Yeah, I guess. I just don't see the reason to make it an antagonistic angle. If you want to run an award show, run an award show, right? Like, Melanie specifically, like, I defended you 4 years ago when you were getting attacked online. Like, I've always been against dogpiling and all these narratives that have come out about me, about being in the access media and all this bullshit. Like, the same people that are friendly with me now hated me 5 years ago because I took over the Escapist. So I'm not new to any of this bullshit.
Right, right.
Like, it's all a game to people on Twitter, and that's fine. It is what it is. But, like,
I think it's just a tough situation right now for a lot of gamers, because for those of us who are, getting really tired of all of the activism that's being inserted into games, or for the fact that a lot of these, especially mainstream AAA games, are focusing more on reaching as many people as possible, therefore watering down the gaming experience for actual gamers. When we speak out against this stuff, we're being called bigots, we're being called haters, we're having people like Alyssa say, "Fight me in real life." So yeah, it's
You don't see
it's
that as
very,
antagonistic?
Oh
yeah.
no, I absolutely do. I wish it would all stop. Like
What
the
have
entire.
what have you done to check her on Twitter? Have you done anything to call her out and let her know how unnecessary that is? I mean, because once again, I mean, even with this, I mean, she's poking the bear again. The moment a straight white male feels the world isn't about him for a few minutes, he starts braying about taking back a space. The feebleness of a mind like that, the crippling insecurity that eats away at you. Fascinating. That means their entire world is homogenistic, or their friends, the space they inhabit, their work lives. What a sad, gray, miserable life this must be.
And that's crazy, because even with what you're saying with this, you've not mentioned race or anything like that. We care about the gamers, and that's the thing, is gamers do come from a variety of backgrounds and different races, this, that, and the other. So for her to automatically be antagonistic on the, oh, straight white male, this, that, and the other, that's all on her. And this is what we're met with constantly when we say something. It's like, oh, well, you're a bigot. Oh, it's because you're white. Oh, it's because you're straight. And we're sick of it. And also, when we were more, I think people are just a little more on edge and gatekeeping a bit more, because it's like, look what happened to the gaming industry in general. Look what happened with mainstream video games in general right now. And that's because a lot of us were just, oh yeah, let's let everybody in. This is great. And then activists have taken over, and that's reflected in video games. We're seeing remakes, remasters, this, that, and the other of some of our favorite things that are being censored, and that are changing our favorite characters beyond recognition. So they're pushing us out. And so there's a level of boldness that we still have to have, and not for the sake of wanting to fight people, especially not in real life. But as, okay, we're sick of this. We're sick of being pushed out of our own hobby that we've been supporting for so long.
I mean, I'm not gonna like I'm not gonna do the whole defend Alyssa, defend this, defend that. Like, I've been on both sides of the aisle. Like, I've specifically criticized Kotaku heavily in the past because I didn't like all their bait
Right.
against developers. Like, I've been there. I've been hated by pretty much everybody. It's fine. It's what it is. I fully disagree. I fully disagree that it's activists causing this stuff, and I know that's going to raise eyebrows in your chat, but I think it's
Who is?
I think it's completely the corporations running this stuff, and there may be activists running at the top of those corporations, but I mean, you're getting remakes and remasters because people just keep recycling the same brands over and over and over again.
Right, but they're being ruined. They're not being faithfully.
But in the corporate eyes, they're reaching the largest target audience, right? And if you feel on the outside of that, and you feel that woke, or whatever you're going to call it, is that center of attention right now, that's what the corporations are going to target.
But what we're seeing, and what you see in real world, is this woke audience isn't the largest audience. They're actually a very small audience that
But
are just very vocal.
Do you think the very vocal audience on your guys' end is the same thing? Because people keep calling me woke. I've always maintained I'm moderate.
Well, let me
But
ask you-
what is the other end? We're not trying to insert any messages. We just want video games to be fun and to be video games again, like they used to be.
But I think most people want that. I think, like, people were raging about Suicide Squad. I think pretty much everybody agreed that it was poorly written and it wasn't very fun. There was no mission design in that game. People keep point, but I don't think that has anything to do with.
Most people do want that. I agree with that, and that's why they need to stop pandering to this woke audience, because the woke audience isn't the majority of people.
But that game failed because of the mission design, though. That there's just nothing to do in that.
Well,
game.
it did look like a trash game in general, but the woke elements definitely didn't help it.
And Nick, here's the difference, right? You have one side that talks a big game but doesn't talk with their money. And then you have another side that talks a big game but actually reacts with their money. right, or lack thereof. And that's the biggest thing here. And as pointed out by DJ Cobra, who is once again a member of the board, something made for everyone is something made for nobody, right? And there's a lot of truth in that. Right?
That's an Arrowhead Studios quote for Helldivers too. And look at all the shit they've gotten just because somebody put pride flags in their community bio.
Right. So let me ask you this, Nick: who is this modern audience that everybody's catering to? Like, because I've asked that question a million times, and I don't know who that modern audience is. And for the record, you describe yourself as a moderate. I also describe myself as a moderate, right? So, but let's get back to that. Who is this modern audience?
Who knows at this point? Like,
nobody knows. That's the point.
Well, but that's what I mean. Like, people keep trying to put it into a box of what the modern audience is. Is it woke? Is it not woke? Whatever. I have never given a shit about those discussions. I took over The Escapist, the site that was known for Gamergate. I had to rebuild the brand. Everybody on one side hated me just for taking that brand over. And then when all this stuff started with Second Wind, and I stood up to the corporation, didn't take my severance, walked away from everything, and when we went and started Second Wind, then all of a sudden everybody respected me for it. Great. Like, I'm not part of this circle that everybody wants me to be a part of. Everybody keeps trying to put people in boxes and labels and all this bullshit. I don't play that game. I don't use gamers as a derogatory term. That's our audience. Why would I do that? I don't use woke. I try not to use alt-right, all that bullshit. Maybe I have in the past. Right now, it's been very much one-sided against me. We'll put it that way. My mentions have been filled with really hateful people for weeks now, including people sending me gore into my DMs. So I'm not gonna play nice with certain people that have been targeting a lot of people in the industry that are doing good things. But this entire modern audience thing, like, I've always viewed it, if you cover games, you make good material about games, you stay out of the culture war stuff on Twitter, which of course I'm involved in right now, and I really fucking don't want to be, then your audience shows up. They're there to do cool things. They're there to talk about cool things. They're there to be critical thinkers. But everybody keeps wanting to get involved in this culture war stuff, and it's got to be one side versus the other side. Nick, I just like games.
Nick, you're right. I long for the day where this show doesn't exist because all this shit doesn't matter. But the reality is that video games are they have a major cultural thumb on literally everybody in the world, right? Mm-hmm. We all know the data, right? When it comes to video games generating more revenue than movies and TV combined, right? There's more people playing video games than ever before. So when this stuff is injected into the video games, and it's a reoccurring thing. Look, you guys cover video games from the beeps and boops perspective, right? The review scores. How does it play? We cover video games from the cultural impact of those games. So that's the difference about what we do.
We cover them culturally too. I mean, Cold Take is talking about the corporate and cultural side of it all the time. I think the problem is, like, maybe you're going to disagree with me. I think you are very heavily focused on the Twitter and the Reddit discussions and not the wider breadth of games that exist. There's hundreds of indie games released every week. There's all kinds of cool games every week. That's why we do Bite Size, to cover all these different games. And there's games in there with political messages. There's games in there that are just games with no message at all. Like, I think people are so narrowly focused on these cultural impact points that Twitter or whoever else brings up, whether it's Stellar Blade, whether it's Suicide Squad that killed the Justice League, Horizon, whatever the fuck it is. People are so hyper-focused on these things, they're missing the breadth of games that are out there, which is what concerns me about the way you're doing the awards and the board that you have and all that, is you guys are very focused on those cultural impact points.
Well, it's so much more than just that, though. It's because we're getting our favorite things changed and ruined. And a lot of what we're saying and what we're against is speaking out against these things being changed and ruined. Tomb Raider, apart from the remasters recently, but mainstream Tomb Raider is not even recognizable anymore as a Tomb Raider game. Lara Croft is not recognizable in looks, personality, or anything. And this has been a pattern with multiple different properties. So it's not just like, oh, okay, I want to argue with this person on X because they're politics or whatever. It's that, hey, why are they changing the things that we love? Why is mainstream gaming why can't the female characters be pretty anymore? Why can't why are our favorite characters being changed? Why is gameplay being watered down? Why aren't we getting actual video games that are trying to be video games instead of these extremely over budget cinematic experiences? What happened?
Well, that's
And
that's
so
what I mean. I don't think you're playing enough games if that's what you really think.
well, because there are indie games out there, well, what about some of our favorite mainstream properties? Are we not allowed to care about those anymore?
No, I'm not saying that either. Halo is one of my favorite properties. It's been taken to the ground, shot multiple times. But I
Right.
think, I think that's what happens with franchises that run for 20, 30 years. You get new people working on them. They come in with new perspectives. Things
But that
change.
shouldn't be happening, and that's our problem. And we're speaking out against that because, hey, if they're going to continue a loved franchise, then they need to be hiring people who care about it and who want to continue it and make it great. Otherwise, make something new. I really don't give a crap that much about these brand new games that are stupid, that have this, that, or ideology I don't like. I'm not playing those games. Like, do I think that they are trying to indoctrinate people with certain things? Yes. But my focus with talking about gaming and stuff for the majority of it is seeing how they've watered it down and how they've ruined it and how they've changed what we already loved.
Yeah, I mean,
Nick-
I'm not gonna disagree with most of that. I disagree with the political side of it, I guess. But
Well,
I mean,
the
most of us don't even want politics in games. I don't care. It's not a matter of, oh, I don't like this because it has the politics I don't want. I don't want it to have the politics that I do have in it either. I just want video games to be an escape. We see this stuff
well,
every day, constantly.
I
Can I
think
play video games that escape all the political
well,
stuff?
I think that's more of an issue with writing and pandering than it is
okay,
having
then
politics.
once again, going back to this award show, right, that we're doing, right?
Sure.
You said you need to make this available to everybody. Everybody is welcome to be a part of this, right? It's up to them whether they want to or not, right? But it's important that you have some skin in the game, so you're invested in this, right? That's the idea. People have been like really critical of like, hey, why do you have to pay to be a part of this, to vote on polls and create categories and be a voting member of this, right? Well, number one, these things cost money, right? When it comes to physical events, you probably know better than anybody, if you've done any sort of physical event, it costs to run a venue, it costs to do AV, it costs to do, everything associated with an event. And as somebody who's done events in the past, hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on these events, I know what that's like. And these things cost money, and the price has only gotten up over the last several years for
Sure.
producing these events, right?
But why wouldn't you have a roadmap or a budget or an idea?
Because we don't know what the audience looks like right now. And we said, the audience is
So
very
why
simple. We said that in 2024 we're going to have a digital event, and then 2025 the idea is we want to do a physical event, right?
Yeah, but you've let that scale be either Buffalo Wild Wings or a huge event.
Fucking
Like,
yeah. It could be
so
either.
why for a digital event then? Why are you charging the money that for a physical event that you don't know what it's going to be yet? Why not just make it a $1 entry fee to put something skin in the game?
Yeah, as I said, the idea is that we're saving money for next year to have that physical event. And I don't care if it's at a Buffalo Wild Wings, or I don't care if it's at the American Airlines Center in downtown Dallas, with 16,000 people at it. But the idea is that it could be any scale. It just depends on what the audience is. And right now, the audience has shown that it's there. I think that if we get to 1,000 members, right now we're just over 200, and more people are signing up like literally right now. Then I think that puts us at a realistic opportunity to put together a pretty nice award show. 30,000 after payment processing and stuff, it's probably about $27,000, which is more than enough for venue rental, AV, streaming the event, things like that. Some travel associated with all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, realistically, these things cost money, and the idea is save and be, I think that's the thing that is most lost on this is, right, nobody's looking to be a part of this to make money at all, right? As I said earlier, this is meant to be a thank you to the industry more than anything else. Nobody's making any money on this. Will somebody probably will we pay for travel for people, for presenters and stuff to come in? Sure. right? But we're not looking to generate any like revenue or to make any money on this, right? It's not like this is something to have a very nominal $30 for a year. I think is very fair. It's enough to where those who want to create havoc won't have interest, and it's those who it's also low enough to where those who want to contribute can still contribute. It's 8 cents a day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against you. Like I said, I didn't call you a grifter or anything like that for running an award show. I think I'm totally on the ball for alternative award shows run by gamers. I have no issue with that. I'd like to see a roadmap for what this wants to be. But if you're not worried about it being taken seriously and it's just your audience that you care about,
seriously by who?
I think anybody that's voting in it. Like what's the authority of it? Like you have the guy that's running a Steam group as part of your board. What authority does he have other than he put games on a list?
He cultivated such a huge amount of supporters for that. That actually was a great accomplishment. And what's cool about it was this was somebody who was just among them. This is somebody who's okay, he's just a normal gamer that started this up, and it just shows how like-minded a lot of people are. So I think that's a huge part of the appeal. If you want notoriety or we need these esteemed,
no,
all
I'm not
of these,
saying that either.
if you can't be respected without that, I mean, I think the fact that it's like, okay, this is truly is for gamers by gamers, as cheesy as that sound, there's an appeal with that.
And let me
I would combat that. Well, hold on a sec. I would combat that because the people on your board do have no notoriety. One of them runs Geeks and Gamers, and the other one runs a major Steam group.
Right.
You're just pulling from a different group of people. That's not what you consider access media.
No. Well,
why not have a mixture of both?
Let me answer your question about Cabrutus. Right. Cabrutus's group has 400,000 people who are willing to either buy or not buy a game based off of its involvement of the activism in these games, right? Okay. That group is worth tens of millions of dollars because that is people who are willing to say no with their wallet. Our board is built up with the idea of people being of people who have influence on YouTube as well as gamers as a whole, people who represent the average gamer. Cabrutus represents the normal man gamer, the fourth largest group on Steam. That's an accomplishment, and that's something that shouldn't be under, more than anything, the idea that there's 400,000 people that say enough is enough. That should tell you something. I mean, does it not? And what are your thoughts on like Alan here says, our voices aren't being heard. Journalists go against our voices. It's pointless, right? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, look, there's people, half of the things that people get mad about on Twitter is a single author's opinion.
Or having an alternative to an award show.
Well, that's the thing is,
I disagree with how the award show is being run. I don't disagree with the award show in concept. But
once again, what do you disagree with? I'm saying everybody's welcome. Everybody can contribute.
But they're not
Why?
welcome.
According to who?
You.
I'm telling you, everybody's welcome.
You don't want anybody that you consider access media being a part of it.
Yeah, I don't want. You're right. Correct. Access media not welcome.
Okay.
Because there's no point in even doing it at all if you accept it, because then you just have another award show that has more people with room for bias.
What about sites that aren't IGN or Kotaku? What about DSO Gaming or
you're right. Listen,
smaller mid-tier sites that don't have that kind of access?
Anybody can vote. Anybody can vote. It's just a matter of if they're going to be a part of the board or not.
Right.
Everybody can vote. Literally everybody. People who aren't welcome members of the access media for the board. That's it. That's the only flag in this whole thing that you can consider possibly saying they're not welcome. That's it. Literally everybody else can vote. That's it. Even our board can't vote.
Sure.
So, how is that saying that people aren't welcome? I'm telling you with my voice right now.
I'm aware of that. I'm aware that it's your video talking about gatekeeping real gamers. Do you not consider me or my audience real gamers?
It depends. I think that your audience, I would say I think that your audience is a different subset of gaming, right? But our audience, we're saying those who are tired of all the nonsense and corporate aspects of video games, then this award show's for you.
I mean, that's our audience.
Then they should probably sign up and become members at therealgameawards.com.
We'd run our own award show in that case.
Then you should.
Then what's the problem? Run your own award show.
Again, I said I don't have a problem with the award show. I don't have a problem with it. I just have a problem with the messaging of it. If you want to compete against a corporate games award show, which you're kind of,
I don't.
That's
I don't
that's
want
the
but
thing.
you do. But you do. That's why you call it the Real Game Awards.
Because it's for real people who like playing games. It's not an industry event.
But
That's
regular people vote for the Game Awards. You know that, right?
No, regular journalists vote for the Game Awards. It says on their website. It shows you everybody who's a voting member of it right there on their website.
They're part of the board that helps decide what games are going to be voted for. They do not vote for the winners.
So why can't the gamers do that? Why can't the audience?
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. I think it's when you look at the board of people on the Game Awards, it's all the biggest top tier mainstream sites that everybody knows about. I've always advocated for bringing in not even just corporate sites, but even like people that aren't in corporate anymore, but are big names and well-known names. I've always advocated for bringing in smaller sites that have a more niche audience into those things. But you have to, as I've been told many times by my own team, you have to contact them and request to be added to it. They don't reach out. Or if they do, it's because IGN is one of the biggest outlets on the planet, and that's going to help the Game Awards reach.
What specifically do you disagree with about keeping Access Media out of this show?
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with that being on the board. I think we're crossing wires there on your gatekeeping certain people that you don't consider real gamers. But if anybody can vote, then okay. No. That's what I said. I said anybody can vote, so I get it. I get what you're saying, though. That doesn't come across in the messaging of your video. No, I don't think so.
Well, maybe that is a messaging issue. But the idea here is that, once again, at no point did I say anything about real games. I said real gamers on the board in particular. I'm not saying we can't have real gamers on the board. As a matter of fact, I want real gamers on the board. That is, the entire board is built around having, and we'll be announcing more people soon, but the entire board is built around the idea of once again, people who have influence in the YouTube space, right? People who have who represent gamers as a whole, and we'll be announcing people from within the industry as well who want to be a part of this as well. So it's a three-headed monster, the board. That's the idea. And the board is only there to help shape the show and organize the show, right? Sure. At the end of the day, the voice is truly of the gamer, right? The idea of the members who go in and suggest the potential categories, go in, people who are behind those ideas, whatever the categories are, and to really liven up the idea of what an award show is, right? Like, tuxedos are great, but have you ever been to an event, right? I'd much rather have a red carpet instead of tuxedos and ties. I'd rather have a red carpet with cosplayers walking down dressed as their favorite video game characters. That's gaming, right?
Yeah, I mean, even the Access Media agrees more with you. People in Access Media are always criticizing the Game Awards for cutting off developer speeches and not giving the developers time. The problem is, for something like the Game Awards, the average person watching that doesn't want to listen to developer talk. They want to be shown new games.
Well, I think that's the difference between our audience.
And it's not so much Game Awards anymore. It's, hey, this is our new E3 type event where we're announcing new stuff. That's one of the problems that a lot of us have with what happened with the Game Awards. I mean, the title is Game Awards. Yeah, should it not focus on Game Awards above all else? I think that the whole including, we're getting new trailers for new stuff, that really ruined a lot of it.
Well, people in the industry say the same thing.
Yeah.
So I really would love, like, once again, what do you disagree with about the idea? What's wrong about keeping the Access Media out of this event? Is there anything wrong with that idea?
And again, I said nothing's wrong with that. You can run your event however you want. Even in my tweets, I don't have a problem with you removing the Access Media about it. I have a problem with the way that it's messaged that only you are taking games back. Like that, that just doesn't make sense to me as somebody that every day we're streaming games, we're making content about games, we're talking about games. Our entire channel is not focused on culture war bullshit. Maybe my Twitter right now has been involved in some of that, but even then, I'm still working behind the scenes on planning content for PAX West, going to do this kind of stuff. I think what that messaging is just that anybody that's not on your side of the aisle or what you consider your side of the aisle is not equipped, doesn't care about games, doesn't care about the people making games, all that. I would rather see if you want to do an award show, just make it about that. It doesn't have to be an us versus them thing.
Well, the us versus them, it's us gamers versus Access Media. That's what it is. It has nothing. Listen, Nick, we want developers to succeed, right? We love developers, right? We want the industry to be massively successful. I think that's the thing that you're missing here, right? But we also feel that there's a giant hole, and that hole is the voice of the voiceless right now. Because right now, when you look at articles on your favorite Access Media sites, Kotaku, Polygon, The Gamer, go down the list, gamers don't feel like they represent them, right? At least, what I see online, they don't feel like that represents them. They would love nothing more than to just talk about video games and just to play games. As Mel said, the idea of going in and just playing games and enjoying them, using games as an escape. And for a large group of people who've grown up and played games their entire life, they've noticed a dramatic shift, and they just want things to go back and remove politics, remove all the unnecessary and DEI involvement and everything else associated with that. And I think that there's a giant audience out there, way larger than those who are forcing that. And as you said, activists in these development industries and publishers.
I mean, being an activist isn't inherently a bad thing.
It is when you try to take over other things for that
Sure.
purpose. I mean, look at what happened with Anita Sarkeesian in general. Someone who wasn't even a gamer, who waltzed in and wanted to insert her activism into the gaming space. And she isn't the only one. So to say that this doesn't exist in the mainstream gaming industry is just
Didn't say it doesn't exist.
delusional. It's a real thing. So this is what we're fighting against. We are taking gaming back because these people have walked in and changed everything and tried to push us out. So it very much is a thing.
So let's bring this all the way. And what do you? I don't know. Any thoughts on that? Do you not see that? Do you not see that from gamers' audience, or are you out of touch when it comes to that side of things?
No, I'm not. I'm not out of touch. I ran The Escapist. I wasn't invited to things. I built everything up on my own, made all my own contacts. I'm not in the big games media circles, even if they're responding to me on Twitter right now. I've never met most of these people in real life. I've always done my own thing. And that's where I'm at. Have games gotten? I'm trying to find a way to word it where I'm not getting into buzzwords. Have games gotten into pandering areas? Yes, I fully believe games have been pandering, and they're poorly written for it. And I think everybody knows that. Do I think people are being pushed out of gaming? Not necessarily.
They're trying. They literally.
I think
things.
if you're not on Twitter, you probably don't know about any of this stuff and probably don't care.
Well, a lot of people are being pushed out of their favorite franchises because they're being changed beyond recognition and they don't want a part of what's going on anymore. So whether it is just on X or in execution of the games themselves, you're losing the people who supported these games and made them happen because activists wanted to roll in and change everything. So they are by nature pushing out actual gamers.
My perspective on that always comes to the business side of things, that the market will speak.
And you don't think that the market has spoken about? I mean, let's go back to Suicide Squad, right? You're like, well, no, it was poor writing, right? I don't think it was poor writing.
No, I didn't say it was. I said it was poor writing alongside poor gameplay. There is no mission design in that game to speak of.
You know what? There were 0 articles written about, Nick. It's poor writing and a poor gameplay.
I made a video about it.
Okay. You're the one, right? But at the end of the day, I don't think that's why people didn't play Suicide Squad. That's, and that's the God honest truth. It had nothing to do with gameplay and story and everything else associated with that, right? That got labeled. that got labeled because of, once again, going back to the activism associated with all this stuff. And, I want to point this out, like, here's the issue with activism when it comes to like taking over properties, is that they're amazingly explicitly like leftist games, but they're made by leftists to be leftist for leftists. But Final Fantasy and Tomb Raider and Suicide Squad, Assassin's Creed, they've all been changed away from their original intent.
I mean, you just said it, most of the people that make games are progressive. So if you want more games to be made that aren't progressive, people need to step up and start making their games.
Okay, but when you speak,
but they're getting, that's the thing, is people that are working for these companies are literally being fired if they express anything that isn't under this whole woke ideology umbrella.
People are losing their jobs anyways.
And the reason why a lot of this woke ideology is forced into games right now is because that is all that is allowed those are the only opinions that are allowed in the gaming industry right now. So to say, oh, why aren't you making your own thing? They're trying. They can't, because they're getting fired just for having an opinion or for voting for somebody that wasn't approved of by whatever the narrative is.
There's tens of thousands of indie studios. Why can't people that disagree with that make their own studio?
Why can't somebody just compete with Blizzard right now?
I mean, former Blizzard developers are trying to.
Yeah, they're trying, but to say that, that's just completely, you're dismissing the fact that what we're saying is that a lot of existing gamers are being pushed out of the hobby, and because, well, why aren't you starting your own studio and beating these billion-dollar companies? Well, that doesn't, it's just a diversion from what the actual topic at hand is here, is that gamers are being pushed out.
What is actually stopping you from playing the games that you want to play?
I play retro games. If I want to play the games I want to play, I have to play retro. But what's stopping me from wanting to play a continued Tomb Raider experience that is actually in the same vein of Tomb Raider? The fact that they're not making it, the fact that they've changed it and they've hijacked it and they've incorporated all their woke ideologies where, oh, now Lara Croft isn't even a Tomb Raider anymore. She is a restorer of artifacts now. That's what's stopping me from playing it, is that they're not making it anymore.
Do you not understand? Do you not see the trickle down from that, Nick?
No, I do. I'm a huge fan of Halo. I don't really like the direction Halo's gone in. So am I going to play the next one? I don't know. It has nothing to do with the woke policies. It just, they didn't even finish the campaign of Halo Infinite, and I have no idea what the franchise was.
This is what's happening over and over with so many titles that have had fans for decades. And we're seeing them transform beyond recognition constantly. And we're feeling like we're being pushed out of things that were very important to us, that we're huge fans of. That is the main point here.
Well, and Halo falling apart had more to do with 343 not hiring employees. They just hired contractors, kept cycling people out, so they didn't have a dev team.
So, but Nick, let me ask you, John points this out, right? He says, make your own thing. But when we do make our own thing, we get criticism for it. Right. So well,
it's the same song and dance. It's like, oh, wait, you're making something, but I can't be included on it. Now I have a problem with it. When that's exactly what happened with gaming as a whole was, wait a minute, you guys are having fun over there with your video games. I want in on this. Okay, we let them in. Guess what happens? They change everything and push us out. Same song and dance.
As I've said multiple times, I don't have a problem with you creating your own Game Awards show. I had a problem with the messaging of it. I think I'm allowed to criticize that.
Well, but that's you said you're allowed to criticize that, but you did say earlier, why can't Access Media be a part of it? Well, you're changing the story constantly.
I did not ask why Access Media can't be part of it. I said, why aren't you reaching out and having a mix of both Access and Media and real gamers?
Then you right. So you're asking why can't Access Media be a part of it? That's
exactly what I just said.
Because here's why
you don't want that perspective from the XX Media, because you don't
absolutely
think that's fine.
There's a bias there.
Okay. Come on. There's a bias on your guys' side too. Don't even try to act like there's
bias on our side to, like, how is that even comparable? It's like, okay, here are people who are given codes and are given incentives. I mean, that's common sense to say, oh, somebody who's given incentives shouldn't be on a board to nominate games for Game of the Year and things of that nature. I mean, that's just a conflict of interest. What is the conflict of interest on our part? We're not being monetarily rewarded for any competitive companies or this, that, or the other.
You're not. Are you going to allow any games in that are supported by DEI incentives?
We will have. I guarantee.
If a game is good, I mean, look at Baldur's Gate 3, which a lot of us acknowledge. Hey, wait a minute, which I refuse to play that game, but I can objectively look at the game and the gameplay and all of that and say, okay, this looks like a great game. I'm not going to play it because I don't like the DEI stuff. And I even said during the Game Awards that went last time, I'm like, oh, I understand why Baldur's Gate 3 is there. I don't like it, but I understand why it's there. So to say that no matter what, if a game has woke elements in it, that we're just going to disregard it, that's not true. I mean,
I just asked. And also, like I've said, Suicide Squad, I didn't like the game. It has those elements in it. I didn't think it was good. There's a lot of games that are on those the lists that are out there that I don't think are good. I just don't think it has anything to do with diversity. It has to do with poor writing and poor game design.
Nick, here's the thing. To answer your question, it doesn't matter what we think as far as whether we allow a game to be a part. We have no bearing on that, right? Ultimately, that's the idea of this show, is that the gamer, the audience who plays these games, the consumer is the one who decides who gets nominated, what the categories are, and they ultimately decide who the winners are, right? It doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what Mel thinks. It doesn't matter what Jeremy thinks or Cabrutus thinks. The idea here is that we are the organizers, and we are creating a plate that we are serving up for the consumer, and it's their job to decide, which is exactly why Access Media isn't in. Right? There's far more gamers than there are Access Media, far more. And I'd much rather hear from them than whatever is going on The Gamer or Kotaku or Polygon or pick your website.
Okay, that's fair.
So, any more criticisms of this whole thing?
No, not really. I mean, I we're obviously ideologically opposed, and that's fine. I think that, again, my main thing is just I'd rather see it not be an antagonistic thing. I would heavily support a alternative to the Game Awards. If you make it a great thing, great. That's cool.
But Nick, to be clear, the only people that can be potentially antagonized by this are the Access Media. Everybody else is welcome, which is 99.999999999% of people who play video games. The Access Media is this tiny little.
What's Skill Up? What's Skill Up to you?
What's that?
What's like a channel like Skill Up to you?
I'm not familiar with them.
Okay. So I think
Skill Up.
Yeah,
I think I've seen him before, but I don't know. So, but
he gets review codes. Would you consider him Access Media?
Not for the board. No. That's one of the three rules.
I just asked. I asked if you would consider him Access Media.
Yes. Did he receive access to a code to play the game? Yes. Then he's Access Media. Yes, absolutely. So, if once again, it's very simple. If you receive codes, we're not saying you can't vote. Go vote. Go crazy. But you can't be a part of the board if you receive any codes. And I think it's very black and white.
Yeah. If that's your criteria, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
I would much rather the board be filled with gamers who have who go out and pay for games with their own money than people who are given codes to play and there's expectations attached to that, right? Whether it's a review, whether it's gameplay, whether it's a stream, along the whole side of this. So, it's very, very clear. Like I said, everybody can vote. I don't care if you're Access Media or not. You vote, go crazy. I don't care if you work for IGN. I don't care if you work for Kotaku, whatever. Vote, right? Will they vote? Probably not, right? But the idea is that it's open to everybody. It just goes back to the board, right?
It's open if you pay.
It's open, yeah, right. And once again, there needs to be some sort of gatekeeping associated with that, which as we've seen in the industry, whenever there's no gatekeeping, that's when this shit creeps in, and people are tired of it, right? And they are, so you said this, you said something, we're opposite sides of this, of things, ideologically, or so. Is there anything else, real quick, before I get to that, is there anything else that you want to throw out there, or any other criticisms that you feel about this that you want to get off your chest, or of me, or of anybody that is representative or on the board that you want to throw out there?
No, I like I said, I think it's an interesting thing that you're doing. I don't know if I agree how it's being set up. We've already talked about that. I don't know funding an event without like a proper roadmap. I'm not sure, but that's your prerogative to do that.
Like I said, in the past, Nick, I've funded events like SGC. This is an event that had 15,000 people at it.
Sure.
And I've done it before, and you know what? I'm going to do it again. And you know what? At the end of the day, my entire career has been built around the idea of catering to the gaming audience. Literally since the day I walked in, gamers, people, the consumer. That has been my entire career. This is no different. I could give a shit about the access media. I can give a shit about the media as a whole, right? I can be friends with them, but that doesn't mean I have friends in the access media, but like I said, I'm not going to offer them an opportunity to be a part of this because it breaks the core rules associated with it. So, as far as the roadmap goes, like I said, we have to see what if there's an appetite for this. And so far, the appetite has been there. People are interested in this idea because, which I think says a lot. Just like there's an interest for people to sign up for a Steam group with 400,000 users on it, right? That can ultimately make or break a game based off of a company's involvement with it. Right. To the point to where these companies that are involved with this consulting firm no longer want that public because it can break their game. Right. It can break the sales opportunities for their game. Right. So, look, I think that you're greatly discounting the amount of normal men and women who are out there who are just tired of this stuff. Like I said, this is an award show for literally everybody except for the access media on our board.
How am I discounting it when our content does not take part in the culture war at all?
No, I'm just saying that I think you're really undervaluing the amount of people that are out there, that are tired of this.
That's the audience that I have cultivated through the Escapist and through Second Wind.
But
that's Yahtzee's audience too. People that are both for politics and games and people that are against politics and games. We cater to everybody with what we do.
And
the thing we don't make content about is gossiping about other people on the internet. People in your chat are going to point out at my Twitter to say that.
Right. And as I pointed out to you directly, like you talking about it on Twitter is no different than Smash JT or anybody else talking about it. And to be clear, what is it gossip or is it news? And because at the end of the day, you are a public figure. People will talk about you.
Sure.
You've chosen this position for yourself. Yep. So it's natural for people to be interested in what you have to say. So is it gossip or is it newsworthy? Are you newsworthy or is it just gossip?
I think it becomes gossip when people cherry pick things to make a video about what you say without putting the full context in it.
Okay, let's talk about cherry picking real quick. What about the Sweet Baby article from Kotaku that Alyssa wrote, where she totally didn't include the idea of why the Sweet Baby Inc. detective group was created to begin with? Like, that's cherry picking, right? Sure. So don't you see something wrong with that?
Sure.
All right. Okay, so as long as there's a bar, that's the most.
Yeah, I mean the bar has the entire time been a lot of this stuff is cherry picked to create a narrative. The Wukong, or not Wukong, yeah. What's that game from the Chinese studio?
Yeah, that's a Wukong.
Yeah, Wukong. Yeah. So there's a narrative out that they got extorted for $7 million. Where's the receipts? Where's anything to prove that was true besides what somebody on Twitter said about it?
So if these things are done to create a narrative and to create a backlash, create some sort of narrative, why aren't you calling those things out?
I have in the past.
You called out Alyssa for leaving out that shit in that article.
I wanted to stay completely out of the SBI thing because I don't know enough about it, and neither do the people covering it.
But if they do know enough about it, they know enough to leave certain things out of it, like an entire arm of the story, an entire branch of the tree of the story. Like it was blatantly left out. Like,
sure.
to totally fit a narrative. So,
and both sides are doing that stuff.
okay, what have we done? Have we left anything out?
You totally talked about the 7 million extortion story.
Yeah, it's because it's worth talking about, right?
But you don't have any basis for it being true.
Listen, we're not a news outlet, Nick. We talk about things. That's what we do on a day. We're not saying we're not trying to break news.
But why would you run that? Why would you run a conversation about that specific topic if there is no way to even prove it's true?
Because it's interesting. We talk about all sorts of things that may or may not be true every day.
So whether it's interesting, but audiences don't care if it's interesting. They just take it and run with it like it's true.
So you think the audience is dumb? Like, the audience is smart enough to realize things. We feel our audience is smart enough to be able to take things and digest things and understand it because they're grown-ass men, right? Grown-ass men and women.
You would say the audiences of all these access media sites are dumb.
So
no, I didn't say that.
Nobody's ever allowed to talk about rumors.
I didn't say that, but I think if you're going to talk about an allegation like that, you should absolutely have more to back it up than just, hey, this person on Twitter said this.
What people are doing is talking about what the context we've been given, and it's like, okay, the viewers are gonna take with that what you will, but it's rumors. These are things that are discussed.
So we as public figures have no responsibility to make sure that we're not pushing stuff like that.
But as long as you say allegedly, then you're okay, because this is all allegedly.
Okay, I'll remember that.
Well, I mean, like I said, we never at no point do we say we're a news show ever. We're a podcast. We talk about stuff. That's what we do on a day-to-day basis.
And
right?
we're relating to just the average gamer out there. What would you be talking to with a friend? Oh, did you see what so-and-so said about Wukong and about how Sweet Baby Inc. and how there could be some extortion going on with that? It's like a conversation you would have with a friend. Us streamers, we're not in a journalistic space, and we're not sharing things as, oh, okay, guys, here's some breaking news. It's like, hey, we're having a discussion about what we've seen, and we do show context. When we talk about things like that, we have X pulled up. We have the conversations pulled up. People can see exactly what's being said there and exactly where the rumors came from.
So where's the line where you won't discuss something?
I mean, that's going to depend on the person. My line is I don't like to try to ruin people's personal lives or anything like that. So I think that there's a moral line to be had there. But hey, if there's some rumor mill about, oh, this company is doing this practice or that, hey, discuss it and look into it and share your opinion, and then ask your audience what their opinion is. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
So, and as pointed out by Dev here, like even in that segment, the Wukong segment, I said, this is a rumor and needs more proof to actually believe it. Right. So like, we always try to preface these things whenever we talk about this. It's not like at no point we're like, this is fact. You need to believe it 100%.
Let me clarify then that I'm not specifically pointing at you on that. I may have pointed at you in that thing, but I'm talking more widely here.
Well, you spoke specifically about that situation on this show. So
right. But you weren't the only one that covered it.
Right.
And you're probably asking, why didn't Access Media cover it? Exactly. I mean, there's nothing there. There's no receipts, there's no emails, there's nothing to show other than some random guy on Twitter said that happened. Okay, but that's not something people with a journalist background would report on.
We're not journalists.
But I'm going to expand on that point. I have also heavily criticized in the past many times when people use a random Twitter user to create a narrative about all people playing games. I've also criticized that. I don't think random people on Twitter should be used as a source for anything.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you're coming at this as from more of a journalist perspective, but the rest of us, we're just chatting with fellow gamers. We're just retards with an internet connection, as Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers says, and I agree with. That's all it is. Like, we don't esteem ourselves as these grand figures or anything. And so this whole idea, well, don't you have a responsibility for your audience? We see ourselves on the same level as our audience. We're not people that have some sort of authority that they're going to be looking to us for, information and misinformation and this, that, and the other. We're just, it's just like chatting with your friends.
Do you, Nick? Let me ask you this, and this is pointed out by Anti-Hero. He says there's a game company that makes games for right wingers, as they say. Their last game was called The Great Rebellion. Have you heard of this game?
I think I've seen people talking about it recently. Sure.
Okay. Well, it got banned from Steam, even though the violence of the game is more or less on like Mega Man level, really basic, if you want to call it violence. And so why do you think that was? Why do you think it was banned? Because their thought is that you're either completely, like they say, and this is their quote, that says you're either completely unaware or you're gaslighting.
Is there a story to look at?
No, just as far as, well, that's the thing. Who's going to cover that, Nick? Who's going to cover that? The Great Rebellion was covered. I mean,
there's games banned on Steam every day. I don't know what the significance of this one is. If it's right wing, I don't know why.
You don't think that? You think Kotaku is going to go out of their way to cover that?
I don't know. I don't work at Kotaku.
Let's be real.
You don't think? Wait, hold on a sec. You don't think Kotaku would celebrate a right wing game getting banned?
No, I think that they certainly would not want to signal boost it because that would drive awareness. The Mandela effect would happen.
I mean, Kotaku doesn't hide its biases. I've said that in the past.
Mm-hmm. Right, and I think this is just a reoccurring theme across the entire industry.
I mean, right? I was around when people wanted hatred banned.
Right.
That company was people tried to push that company in the dirt for making that game. And now they cover their games. I mean, they made a bunch of games since, so they've been
fine. All right. So what else we got here? Melanie, you got anything before we
No, I just feel like this has been a very discombobulated conversation. It's like, okay, what's the real problem then? If it's like, oh, but why can't access media be included? And then we explain, it's like, oh, I'm okay with access media not being included on the panel. Fine, as long as they can vote. Okay. What about, why are people gossiping? Why are this? Why that? It's like, what? It just feels like this has been a circular argument. So I don't know. I still don't understand what Nick's problem is.
Nick, what's now that you've heard everything, what's the issue?
Again, I said my main issue is just the messaging of it. You gave me the context of the show. I didn't know how you were running it. You explained that more. I mean, I'm not going to try to stop you running your own Game Awards show. You can do what you want. I can have my thoughts about it. You can have your thoughts about me and what I do and what Access Media does. I mean, in the end, we're all going to do our own thing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So you have no issue with it, really, outside of the idea that Access Media isn't asked to be involved.
No, I don't have an issue with Access Media not being involved either. My only point was, I thought you wanted it open to everybody,
and I do.
Right, and so my point was, why not have a voting pool or a board pool comprised of people that you disagree with and people you agree with? You don't want that.
The board doesn't vote. The board doesn't vote.
Right, and you made it clear. I know that. I don't. Mm-hmm. So what is the point of the board? Is just to set it up,
more or less to organize and set up. Right.
That's been explained to me, so I understand that.
So there's no issues.
No, not really.
Awesome. So let me ask you, like, appreciate you coming on the show, right? You feel ideologically, different than us, whatever, right? Do you feel like we are racist or anything along those lines? Like, and if you do, please be transparent, because I don't think we've ever done anything that could ever be, seen that way. But feel free.
I haven't watched enough of your show to really know, Greg. Like, I mean, there's things that you absolutely say that I disagree with, but I mean, I'm not going to. Melanie specifically uses a lot of slurs towards people. Whether you agree those are slurs or not, that's up to you. I disagree with it. I don't feel like I need to comment on people's identities and stuff like that. I mean, you're asking me a very loaded question. I don't know what your personal thoughts are. I don't know you well enough to make a judgment on your character, just like you don't know me well enough to make a judgment on my character. So I usually try to stay uninvolved in this stuff. I don't like getting into shit slinging contests, and the only reason I ever got involved in it in this first place is because somebody was being targeted that I believe does a lot of really good in the industry. Her tweets were drug. I'm not going to name them because I'm not going to put them on people's radars again.
Well, no. Who was being targeted? Because if somebody was targeting them, let us be the first to call the people that targeted them out, because we don't want that. We don't want anybody targeted. If anybody gets doxxed, if anybody gets calls for violence, nobody wants that. And that's the thing. You need to
We're
be
not asking people to fight us in real life.
right.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, fight us, bitch. Right? Like nobody's going out of their way to say that. As a matter of fact, we're saying the exact opposite of that.
Well, that's what
do that.
those are comments you pulled out of context on me that said I wanted to fight people in real life for opposing wokeness. That was never true.
Well, I think you're referencing to was it a video Smash did, something along those lines? But
yeah.
So okay, so I mean, then that's great. So you see nothing wrong with us, which is great. You obviously, with as far as Melanie goes, you don't agree with some of the things that she says, right? I guess what? I don't agree with some things Melanie says. I don't agree with some things that Blab says, right? I probably won't agree with things that you say, right? But the point is that we can all still talk. And that was the objective of having you on today, and as actually having a conversation here, as opposed to, like I said, Twitter's not real life. These people who are criticizing me on Twitter, 99.9% of them would never show up to be on the show, right? They're too chicken shit. But having that conversation is important, and appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, I mean, I've always maintained Twitter is not a place for nuanced conversations. I've been, for the past 2 months, I've had people wishing death on me in my replies, my DMs, my emails, all over the place for things that were completely taken out of context for what I said.
Then let me. Okay, there's actually something I do want to ask you about, since I have you. When you say you need to go after people's sources of their income, what specifically do you mean? Because there have been people who have taken what you've said and taken that very literally and gone after people, made phone calls to people's jobs and taken things that you've said very literally, right? So for you being upset about the way we speak, hello, pot, meet kettle, right? Because there are people who take things that you say. Should you be responsible for their actions?
No, I wouldn't say so. I don't put I don't put the creators specifically in chart in people. Yeah, sorry, tongue twister there. I don't put creators specifically responsible for what their audiences do, because we all have major audiences. If somebody from my audience goes and tells somebody to kill themselves and I see it, I tell them to knock that shit off. Like, that's not cool. Like, you don't do that shit. The people making videos about me are going in and loving comments that are actively telling me to want to hurt me. So, I mean, do you
have any receipts of that?
I do. I do.
Can you show them to us now? Because, like I said, we want to be the first to condemn that, right? The idea that if somebody's calling for violence on you, like we don't condone that at all, right? And that needs to be very clear with all that.
Sure.
Nick, at the end of the day, we just want to play games and leave all the
That's what I want to do too,
right? So it's that's the most fascinating thing about this is you have a section of people who just want to be left alone, who just want to play games, and then you have a section of people who just want to be left alone as long as everything lines up perfectly with their ideological thoughts, right?
That's both sides of the aisle, though. That's not mince words there. There are people that, just because there are diversity in games, get instantly angry about it and start showing up in my replies and other people's replies to tell us how awful we are, just like people do it to you guys.
I don't think people there are people on both sides, an extreme fringe, who will be upset just because there is a character that is, black or gay or whatever, right? But the vast majority, Nick, and I cannot stress this enough, the vast majority of people, vast majority of people don't care if there's any sort of representation in games, as long as it's done well.
Sure.
Right? Nobody
I don't
cares
disagree with that.
as long as it's done well. So, like, once again, you're taking extreme examples.
No, I said there are extreme examples on both sides.
Right.
Just my words there. I said there are extreme examples on both sides that do this stuff. I've seen it. I've been on both sides of it. I ran the Escapist. When I took it over, it was still coming off of Gamergate stuff. I've gotten it all from everybody. I don't have a moment's peace unless I just stay in the middle of things in some form. And I put my glasses on to find these things.
I think this conversation was honestly kind of pointless. I don't think anyone's seen like each other's sides whatsoever. I think the goalpost just keeps moving and moving and moving. I think there are genuine concerns for this award show, but none of them were actually addressed here. So I
like what?
know. And also the Suicide Squad stuff. That game was terrible because the gameplay was just bad. Yeah, it had a lot of DEI in it, but everyone was turned off just from seeing the trailer and going, "That looks like shit. I'm not gonna play that." So
yeah, I mean the other point I was gonna bring up on Wukong in relation to that was like that game's been on most anticipated lists across all of media for months, and suddenly there's a narrative that all of games media hates it.
Well, let me ask you this: if when it comes to like, you know, DEI and diversity in games, right? Do you not see how forced diversity could lead to lower quality in games? Like if you explicitly hire less capable employees because they're part of a specific, you know, diverse characteristic group, you can get a product that is lesser quality while still having, you know, full representation. Do you not see how that can lead to a lower quality just by saying, hey, you know, this person is more talented, but you fit this, you check this box. Can you not see how that may be an issue?
Sure. I'd agree with that. I think you should hire people for their talent. Like I've always done that. Again, I don't think it has really to do with diversity. I think it has more to do with hiring people that aren't skilled for the job that they want to be in. And I also think a lot of the pandering and issues in games, it comes down to just poor writing, which I don't think anybody playing games is going to disagree that writing in games has not been great lately.
Well, I'll say this. You know, I think that you know, reach a good point, but I do think that I would love to see the receipts of what you were talking about earlier, right? So if you want to DM them to me, right? You don't need to put them public if you don't want, right? But if you want to DM them to me, I'd gladly check them out. Like I said, I will be the first to condemn any sort of marks of, you know, acts of violence or anybody saying they want to do anything bad to you or your
I sent you, you know, the whole Smash JT thing. I sent you the stuff from the Syncquisition, and I told you I'd send you the emails. That was he co-opted. We took down a GitHub page that had created a straight up hit list of people in the industry with goals to exercise them and all this other bullshit. So we took that list down, and then I emailed Smash JT to say, hey, we just took down this list. A lot of the same people that were on this list are on your list. I would like you to remove that list. I emailed Wix about taking down that specific page. They took down the entire website. I did not ask for his entire website to be taken down. And I specifically told him, I don't care if you make videos. I don't care if you write articles about me. Just don't give people an easy to access list to target these people right now when they're already getting death threats and all that kind of stuff. And I have the receipts. I'm happy to send those to you.
So once again, you feel like this list on smashjt.com, this Kotaku detected list, you see this as a hit list?
No. I said there was another user, his username on Twitter is like Syncquisition or something like that. He made a GitHub page that had a whole list of people with like this whole religious doctrine to exercise us and all that. And then when we dug into who it was, like a traveling nomad, this dude was not right in the head. So we got that taken down, and almost at the same time, as soon as we got that taken down, then Kotaku Detected popped up with a lot of the same people on that list. I've never said Smash JT's list is a hit list. Do I think it's a targeted list? Yes, but I don't think he's trying to get anybody killed. I think it's targeted to half of the links on there are just things he disagrees with. It's not even like things that people did in the industry. My name was originally on there for supposedly doxing Grums, which I did not do. I've sent you those receipts too, including the timestamp that when the person posted the link to where there was information in there, it was removed within less than a minute. It was gone. Grums was never doxed by me personally or anybody in our audience.
Stay on focus with the Smash thing. So
right. Well, it's part of it, right? So he took when that guy that's been stalking me for 2 months now, Gaga Bear, Gigabear, whatever you want to call it. He sent those messages to Grums, and Grums claimed that I doxed him, which never happened. Smash JT takes those links, that story that got spread about me doxing Grums, puts it on his website. So he's already defaming me there by putting false accusations against me on his website. So we take down the GitHub list that was a list from another person that specifically wanted to hurt us. Minutes later, maybe even a couple hours later, Kotaku Detective pops up with the same names on that list. And I emailed Smash JT cordially to say, hey, like there are a lot of people with threats on them right now. This list is not a good idea. Please remove it. And he took my name off it. I came back and said, would you please remove everybody off it for right now? I don't care about the articles or videos. And he didn't do that. So then I emailed Wix. I said, hey, this list, here's the list we just took down. This list has the same names on it. We're concerned about our safety right now. Wix said, okay, we'll take a look into it. He thinks that a bunch of people reported it and it just got automatically taken down. Wix specifically talked to me personally, removed his entire website, which I did not ask for, just the page. I just wanted that page taken down.
Mm-hmm.
And then he turned that into a whole narrative that I tried to destroy his business and everything, which comes back to funding sources, where I said if people are going to use their audiences to target people, their funding sources should be removed.
So going back to, with that, right, you talked about, going after people, funding people, mm-hmm. right? What's preventing, you saying, what is preventing people from interpreting that as a threat? The idea that you say, well, like you have to go after these people's funding, right? When it comes to this, because that is you're threatening somebody's livelihood. Like I said, people have called other people's jobs, people's personal, their wives have been called,
Well, I haven't advocated for anybody going after personal jobs. I think if you're going to host something on something like Wix, that's a targeted thing that's breaking their terms of service, I think that's fair game. People have done the same to me. They contacted Patreon and told them I doxed Grums, and then Patreon got into contact with us, and we talked about that, and I showed them that never happened, and it's all cleared. So I mean, like, that's, yeah, people do this all the time.
All right, Melanie, you got anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay, I'll say this, man. Look, we disagree on a lot, right? We ideologically, I don't even know where we line up. I don't even care, right? But the point is, having a conversation is important. I would say for us, when you talk about like people who are mentally unwell, look, there are mentally unwell people on Twitter. We just think that there are people who are mentally unwell who have been given positions in the gaming industry, and that's what we're kind of tired of, right? People who have been given positions that they, whether they earned it or not, probably shouldn't be in those positions because they are not mentally fit to handle that. People who, can't tell you what a woman is, and that's where things are a little odd for us. I think for a lot of this, just to put a pin on all this, I think that our audience is a bunch of normal men who, if you were to go back 10 years ago, they'd feel the same way they do about things today, right? And they've seen a lot of change as far as forced change in their hobby that they love, that they don't accept, and they don't understand why that's happened, and they're asking why. But I'll tell you this: they've been able to do. They want to have their voice heard, and that is the entire idea behind what we're doing. So there you go. That's where we're at.
I think probably want a lot of the same things. I disagree with the diversity stuff being an issue and all that. I think it's more, I'm more on the business side of things, where I don't like how corporations are milking brands into the dust and changing them in ways that like just aren't fun games at that point. I think that's two different things. I don't think they're entirely connected, but I mean, I just got fired from The Escapist in November for focusing on the audience and not what the corporations wanted. I mean, that right. So I mean, I'm always against the corporations. I'm not against the people making the games.
And neither are we. And to be totally clear, neither are we, right? We want them to be successful, right? Nobody here is against anybody. And you mentioned, diversity and DEI. Nobody's against diversity either. Nobody. It's just we're against forced diversity. We want the best product that can be delivered. It goes back to your hiring philosophy. You hire off meritocracy. You want the best person for the job, and we're seeing that not happen in the gaming industry.
That doesn't mean though that I won't look for new perspectives to enrich our audience.
No, that's not what we're saying either. Like,
sure. Okay.
That's why you're on the show.
Yeah.
Right. So, all right, Nick, appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you very much for your time. And if you guys want to follow Nick, you can go follow him over on X. And there you go. So appreciate you, Nick. Thanks for spending some time with us today, man.
Yep. If you follow me on X, just be nice or you're getting blocked. So.
Hey, real quick, will you unblock Labs?
Well, no, you don't have to unblock me. I'm just curious as to why, since I've never talked to you. I don't actually care. I just found out this morning, but I'm just like, odd to block a random person.
I basically just blocked anybody that was interacting with that GigaBear guy and anybody that he was. That's the guy that has sent all the. I know. I'm going to explain I'm going to explain the context. That's the guy that has sent all that stuff to Grums, who then ran the story that I doxed him. And he came into our Discord and all that. So anybody that's like interacted with him or Grums, I blocked.
A block by association, kind of like cancel culture.
When the guy's been stalking me, I don't know who's talking to who, but he's been tweeting about me daily for 2.5 months, multiple times a day. I think you would block anybody at that point. But I will unblock you.
All right. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate you, man.
Yep.
I don't care.
Have a good one.
Thank you for coming on. It takes balls.